Thanks so much for listening to No Lions Here with me, Big Panda. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to No Lions Here. My name is Big Panda, and I'm a recovering sex addict. Welcome back to the show. Excited to be back. Before we jump into today's episode, I just want to give a shout out to my sponsor of the show, and that is Beginning Again Institute. If you or anyone you know is struggling with sex or porn addiction, definitely go check them out, beginninganinstitute.com. Their information will be in the description. So definitely go check them out. I've had a bunch of their therapists on doing some really good work out there in Boulder, Colorado. So definitely go check them out. They're a big part of my story. That's where I started my recovery at a little over 4 years ago. Actually, we're coming right up on 4 years to the date of me checking in. I think we're like 2 days away from that. So I think that's I don't know, just really cool to still like be connected with them. So yeah, definitely go check them out if you or anyone you're struggling. I mean, it's a great place to start. Or, anywhere though, really, if you're struggling at all, get to a meeting, right? Go call somebody, a trusted friend, a trusted individual in your life. Go call them, go share, because we're only as sick as our secrets. And the more that I keep these things in, the worse and worse that I get, or these things really pile up and it feels like I can't get out of them. And the only way out is acting out. And that's just, what's a truth and what's a lie here? That is just not a lie. So really excited to be back recording. As you guys all know, I kind of moved out of the studio. So now I'm kind of doing it on the fly, kind of doing it here and there, which I think is really cool. It really like opens me up to be able to just kind of record, wherever I want. I got the equipment with me. And so right now I'm actually in my house recording, first time recording here. So in the kitchen. So this is, I'm pumped to be back on and pumped to just be back and talking with you. The last episode I had was the part 1 with me and my partner, and we've got a part 2 coming out. We got to sit down and record that sometime soon. That'll definitely be, coming out, within the next, I don't know, it'll come. It will come. Trust the process. It will come. So I don't know. On this episode, I kind of wanted to. So we're in the new year. We're in 2025. I kind of wanted to take a look back at 2024 and just kind of reflect on, the setbacks, the growth, because I mean it's all kind of involved. And what I've really found that in my recovery, getting into recovery, every year that I've been in recovery has been like bigger than the last. And I hope that this trend continues to go in that way, no matter what that looks like. But every year has been bigger than the last, or more significant, or there's been more growth, there's been more healing. And it's a testament to the program, right? Just sticking with the program, working the program, staying in the program, and working it to the best of my abilities. I've so been in recovery now for going on right around 4 years. And it's I've acted out more time. I've slipped more times than I like to admit. And I really struggled with sobriety, and even through struggling with sobriety, I was able to really find and have some big breakthroughs and have a lot of really cool things happen in my life. And, so not only that, I think tomorrow is my 9-month sobriety from my bottom line behaviors, or, inner circle behaviors, acting out behaviors, whatever you want to call them. Tomorrow's 9 months. And honestly, like, I never thought that I would be in this place. It just seemed like sobriety was so far out of the reach for me. It just, I wanted to stop. It just was really hard to stop. This is really hard. The drugs and alcohol, was pretty, I don't want to say easy, but pretty simple to put down. And, that's how I know it hit my core that I'm a sex addict, because, the sexual behavior is what I really struggle with. And so be able to look back at 2024 and, May 19th was, my sobriety date as far as acting out goes. Don't get me wrong. Like I have urges. I have urges and I struggle, and that's just been really tough. So I don't know, let's start back, at the beginning of the year, because I had some goals for last year. There were some goals that I achieved, and some goals that are back on the list. And I haven't actually sat down and written out a kind of like a goals list for this year. So I want to do that soon, because we're already into February. We're already into February, halfway through February. And, it's one of those things where like, I got goals. And, I've said this before, science tells me that if I write them down, I'm more likely to achieve them. Going back, the beginning of last year, 2024, I was starting the internship at the treatment center where I now work full time. And, that caused, and that was tough. The first few months, that was tough. Like, it was really hard to juggle. Really hard to find the balance there. Really hard to, find the ways to take care of myself, because this line of work, takes a lot out of you mentally. And what I found in recovery is that the mental gymnastics that I do in my head is so much more strenuous and draining than any kind of physical activity that I do. And like, physical activities, fairly easy to bounce back from, especially if it's something that you're used to doing. It's simple, like rest, get some good sleep, which can be true with the mental side of things. However, like, that's like not all. Like, there's more that needs to go into that. Really leaning on my support network and just trying to take care of myself, sit still with my feelings, and rely on God, my higher power. Like, it's definitely a little different than, and also too, like, I've been doing the physical activity for my entire life, right? I've been involved in sports and very active. So like, that kind of recovery pretty much comes naturally to me. However, and then like the recovery from the mental exhaustion, the mental just feeling drained, like, that's new to me. And even sitting here 4 years in, like, it's still fairly new to me. I'm not going to sit here and say that I know exactly what to do for myself when I'm in those places. And, there's always room for growth. No matter what, there's always room for growth, and that growth will come. And that, like, I really, if anything, over the last 4 years, what I've been taught, or that I've really taken away from everything, is that, like, trust the process. You got to trust the process. And you got to keep coming back. So two things there. Trust the process and keep coming back. I say it at the end of every episode, like, keep coming back. It works if you work it, and you're worth it. And even if you don't feel like you're worth it, keep coming back. And what else? What you got to lose? You got nothing to lose. Nothing to lose and everything to gain. Well, actually, no, there could be a lot to lose, right? Like, the life that I have today, I could easily lose by going back into addiction. And so, that kind of kicked the journey off at the beginning of the year, which, it's funny because the beginning of the years since I've been in recovery, like, the new year kicking in has almost been like really hard for me. Now, this year it's been a little different. This year, I don't think it has been as difficult for me. But the new year, coming off the holidays were been a big struggle for me in recovery. Being around family and the holidays, and then the new year, and this whole idea of, like, new year, new me. People say that. People say that all the time. So it's almost like this idea of like a fresh start, fresh slate for the year. And then, in the past, I'd quickly soil that clean slate by acting out. For whatever reason. It's always kind of a mixed bag of why we decide to step out and why we decide to act out or use or, go back into active addiction. It's kind of always a mixed bag. There's things that we can look at and we can point at, and, thank God for the program, because I can look back on those times and be reminded, of where maybe I need to tighten up, kind of batten down the hatches a little bit. And so, and then we were in the studio last year, and, so there was a lot going on at that time. And so, from January till May, I mean, I really struggled with acting out. I think during that time period, I don't know if I got more than 2 weeks sobriety under my belt at that point in time. And, what was funny about all of that is, even with all the acting out, I remember this was, I don't know, probably March or April, somewhere around there. I had acted out, and it had caused some consequences with some, like, platonic relationships that I had. And, it, in the conversations around that acting out, two different people who don't know each other, one in the program, one out of the program, both like, Alex, like, you need to put yourself out there, man. You need to find somebody, man. You're sounds like you're really yearning for connection, and you may be ready to start dating. And at first, like, I was really taken back by that. I was like, what are you talking about? I literally just like acted out, how can I be ready for dating if I'm acting out? And so that, I think, that kind of planted a seed within me, because here I am thinking, like, we have these tapes and these tales and these narratives that I attach to things in my head. And that narrative is, you need to be super duper sober in order before you even start thinking about dating. And it's kind of reminds me of one of those things, and like that kind of plays along into the tape of, like, maybe the year prior, thinking maybe I'd want to start dating or get out there, and thinking like, well, I haven't worked on this, or this yet, and I really need to look at this. And oh my gosh, like, I'm like moving the goalpost, right? Like, I have to be in this perfect spot, this perfect storm, before I can even like think about trying to date. And I remember my sponsor told me, he said, Alex, when they do road construction on a bridge, let's take a bridge, for example. When they do road construction on the bridge, do they completely shut the bridge down? No, they close one side of it, and traffic can pass on the other side. And then when they're done with that side, then they'll shut down the other side, and traffic can use that. So they never fully actually, even with the maintenance, they never fully actually close the bridges down. And like, to me, that made a lot of sense, right? Because again, here I am thinking that like I need to be in this perfect place, right? I got a thinking problem. I come up with these narratives, and there's feelings attached to these narratives, or there's narratives attached to the feeling. So when I'm feeling a certain type of way, well, I make these narratives up in my head. And so that, like, okay, that made a lot of sense. And then to hear it from, another person, this person was in the program even, I got a program friend telling me, instead of like getting on me, which I thought, everybody would do, instead of getting on me, that's like, hey man, you should really think about putting yourself out there and what that looks like. So it was like, okay, I think, and that was kind of like April-ish of last year. And then May comes around, and, May 19th, that's my sober date. So May 18th, was the last time that I had acted out any of my bottom line behaviors, and so it's like, from there, it kind of, all right, maybe I should really take this seriously. Maybe my higher power is trying to talk to me here. Like, which, in the past, I've taken things and kind of twisted it and turned it into like, hey, this is my higher power talking. He wants me to do this, or like that type of thing. And there were certain things that were true, and there were certain things that were not true, right? There were certain things that I wanted to believe, so therefore I twisted that narrative. And then there were also things that where I truly was led by my higher power to these places. One of those prime examples is, getting into the recovery coaching, right? Getting into working in the recovery industry. And, one of my goals last year, and it does, with one of my goals being last year, was to put myself out there, right? Not necessarily to like find a partner, but start the process and put myself out there and practice that. And then, one of the other goals that I had was, graduate the CPRS program, the Certified Peer Recovery Specialist, graduate that program, get that certificate, find a new job. So, with the dating thing in May, it was kind of like, all right, I think I want to start dating. And honestly, like, that really did kind of help keep me sober for a little while, because it was like, okay, the last thing that I want to do is take these behaviors into a new relationship. And that's why I really thought that I needed to be like super duper sober. And when I say super duper sober, I mean, more than like a month, more than a couple weeks, more than a couple days, And I was so afraid that I was going to take these behaviors into another relationship, because that's like the last thing that I want to do. I've worked so hard on myself to not, one, continue to hurt myself with my behaviors, right? Because first and foremost, I'm hurting myself when when I'm acting out. And two, like, I did not want to do that to another person. I did not want to do that to another person. I'd already done that to enough people, and I just didn't want to take these behaviors into a new relationship. So, it's like, okay, let's start the process. What did this process look like? Let me put that together, the dating plan. And, I've kind of shared my dating plan with everybody. And so like, I felt really good around that. I felt really good having a plan going into it and like making the lists and what are my non-negotiables? What am I looking for in a partner? What were my ideas of first dates? Things as simple as that. Like, and honestly, like that really like gave me a really good template. So I recommend anybody who's listening that's in recovery. It doesn't matter what program you're in, what program you work. I highly recommend putting together a dating plan. Talk to your sponsor, talk to your program friends and like put together a plan. And if I can put together a plan, then I have something to follow. I have a guideline to follow. Sure, things may not look exactly, but at least I have a guideline. I have a guideline of what this looks like and how I need to act because I need to be accountable in all of this. At the end of the day, I'm a sex addict, right? So I can easily abuse trying to date. I've done it before. I did it earlier in recovery, tried to go about the wrong situations in the right way. And I definitely did not want to do that this time around. My goal was not to use anybody. My goal was simply just to get practice, right? And then I ended up, finding a partner, and we've been together now for about 7 months, and it's been great. Like I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about how I act and react in relationships. I think one of the biggest things that I recently bumped up against when it came to the relationship was that I had this idea, and I had another program friend kind of lay this out for me, which made a lot of sense. Was so over the last 4 years, right? My big part of my recovery is the emotional side. Being able to name my emotions, being able to feel my emotions, being able to express my emotions, and be vulnerable with my emotions. I think that is a big part of recovery. If not for everybody, at least being a sex addict, right? Because there's a lot of turmoil and emotion. But again, I believe that that's kind of true across the board. I truly believe that my addictions stem from unregulated emotions, unmet needs, loss, and trauma. And so so over the last 4 years, I've been spending my time talking to my sponsor, talking to my program friends in these conversations where like I get to freely share how I feel. And then the other person who is I say disconnected, but because it's a friendship, right? There's not that closeness of a partnership where then, okay, now it's your turn. Now you get to share. And it's not even necessarily in the moment with each other. It's whatever is going on in my life, right? Like checking in, doing that 10-step inventory of, where was I at today? What emotions did I feel? Did I obsess over anything? Things like that. And getting to share that with another person in real time, going back and forth, right? Well, to me, that translated into, okay, in all of your situations, Alex, this is what you need to do, right? This looks fair. Well, now that I'm in a relationship, I learned we had a conversation in my partner, and she was sharing how, she was feeling a little unseen by me. It was like, okay, yeah, all right, I hear you. I can give you space. I'm sorry you feel that way. That's something that I can take a look at. And it was almost like, okay, you shared, now it's my turn to share. And hey, I'm really disappointed that you didn't go to do this event with me. And this was like a real conversation. And she took that as, she took that in the wrong way. And, to no fault of hers, right? No fault of hers. But what I was trying to do in that situation was I was almost trying to treat that like a program conversation where like, okay, you shared your feelings, now it's time to share my feelings. And this is what we do. This is how we resolve things. When in reality, men and women are different in that sense. And that sometimes, this is how my friend described it to me as, Alex, sometimes you need to be the rock that she crashes on, that the wave crashes on. And during those times, you may need to internalize how you're feeling. And so with that means, okay, what's my inner monologue look like around these feelings? Because I know for me, because in that moment, in that conversation, I felt a little pent up with some of my emotions that I was feeling in and around the relationship with the situation that was going on. And again, it's not necessarily the situation that was going on, right? That's something I'm pretty big on. Is it's not actually the situation that's right in front of us that's kind of causing these feelings, but you know, in that moment, I was feeling a little pent up. I was feeling a little distant. And, when I'm feeling that way, I need to share what's going on with me. And whenever I did that, whenever I shared that I was feeling a little disappointed after she had shared, like I felt a relief, right? Because now, okay, now I've got my emotions out. I've got my feelings out. Okay, I'm more open. But in turn, what that ended up doing was I really just like ended up shutting her down. So, in those moments, what I need to look at as, okay, I can internalize these. That's fine. I can hear her. I can be the rock that she crashes on. Because again, men and women are different. It's scientifically proven. Men approach situations differently than women, and that's not being sexist at all. I think that's just part of the science. And with not being in a relationship or not being in a healthy relationship, this is my first go around with trying to be healthy in a relationship. And I'm trying to go about things in the right way here. And I want her to share with me, and um but I also want to be able to share with her too, right? We worked on this connection. And so in that moment of feeling distant and a little shut down, like what's my inner monologue? And that's something that I really need to be mindful of in those moments, because I think that for me, that's what it comes down to, right? So, okay, so in the moment, she's sharing, and she's really great at supporting me when it has nothing to do with the relationship. When I'm just like emotionally struggling and I share that with her, she's really great at supporting me. She is amazing at supporting me. And then I was like so blown away. Again, I had expectations, I had assumptions, right? Like, what's my part in this? I totally had a part to play. And so I need to look at my side of things. And it was one of those things where I need to be mindful moving forward of, in those moments, if there is a situation going on within the relationship where we're both feeling a certain type of way, I really need to put my stuff to the side, right? Because it's not so much about my stuff in that moment. It's, hey, okay, she needs to be heard. She's feeling this type of way. Let me give her the space. Let me hear her. And I can take this in. I can hear it. I can try not to take it personally. I just need to not let those emotions overwhelm me to the point where like I shut down. Because that's what I do, is I shut down. And so, like, what does my inner monologue look like? And that's my challenge moving forward. I can't tell you what that necessarily looks like. Maybe it's something as simple as, okay, I hear you. Thanks for sharing. Now, you know what? Hey, I need to like step aside and I need to go make some phone calls. Can I go make some phone calls, and we'll circle back to this because I do care about you. And obviously, there's reassurance in those moments, right? I know that I'm good at giving the reassurance. I know that I'm good at that, and I'm truthful with that. Whereas in the past I used to gaslight and give reassurance that wasn't actually true. But now I feel like, my reassurance is authentic, and I can reassure and know that what I'm saying is true, and that I will hold to those things, and that I'm not holding anything back, and I'm not lying about anything. As in, like, I am committed to you, because now today in my life, like I can make those commitments and I can hold those commitments. And so, I need to watch the inner monologue. And then what I can do, this is another thing that my buddy kind of was talking to me about. And he's older, and he's been in some relationships and some marriages, and he's been in recovery a long time. And he was like, Alex, you can always circle back. You can always circle back, let her kind of, again, be the rock that her is the wave crashes on. And then, give it some time and then circle back. And then that's when I can kind of bring up, hey, this is kind of how I was feeling. But in the meantime, lean on the program, lean on God, lean on the program in those moments. And I have a great support network, and I feel like I do a good job of doing that, of making sure that I've got the time to talk about what's going on with me, because that's so important to me. It's just, maybe not in the morning. I was essentially trying to make it a fair fight. And in reality, life's not fair. It's not always going to go how I want it to go or look how I want it to look. But again, in those moments, what's the internal monologue? And what can I do for myself in those moments to, kind of, I don't know, be the strong one? And to me, it was funny because like immediately I thought of like, well, that's just me stuffing my feelings, and that's not what I'm supposed to do. Well, that's me kind of, again, attaching these narratives, making it black and white. And it's like, well, no, I don't. Yes, I have to internalize them, but I think that there's a difference for me in internalizing and stuffing. Stuffing is acting like they're not there and fighting them. Internalizing them is saying, okay, those are there. let me try to rationalize these. And again, let me go make a phone call around these. Because, in those phone calls, I can be authentic with how I feel. Because I'm with, it's not my partner I'm talking to. And then kind of circle back to that. Because again, we were both, when we even tried the next day, and this was before I had the conversation with the program friend, we even tried to kind of hash it out the next day. And it really wasn't going anywhere. It was almost like I wasn't seeing where she was coming from and she wasn't seeing where I was coming from. And again, not knocking her at all. That's not what I'm doing. Just trying to explain the situation. And my part in this is, maybe I was so hung up on sharing my feelings, and it's my turn. I mean, some king baby stuff, some entitlement there, maybe some righteousness, all things that are definitely present in my story. They're definitely present in my life, and they are patterns that I can tend to fall into. And so now that I'm seeing that, okay, let's break that pattern. Let's break the pattern of that. And again, I need to remind myself too, is that like, this is really new to me, right? This dynamic, this relationship, being in a committed relationship with a partner, it's just a different dynamic. And so, in that conversation with that program friend, it really shed a lot of light and it made a lot of sense. And then like the other really cool part about it was like, I was able to hear it. When he said, Alex, you tried to make that things fair. And like, instead of wanting to push back, it was like, I think you're onto something, man. You're good at this. Okay, I think you're onto something. And, I was able to hear that and take that in and fully process that and not look at it as, dang, I really messed up in that moment and I screwed it up, to, okay, yeah, I see how I can do things differently moving forward. And that's, I think, the important part and important of the internal monologue there is like, hey, you can do things differently. You can do things differently, right? One of the promises, I love the promises, is, we will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. In the past, those situations would have baffled me in a relationship and led me to act out, led me to be distant, led me to be cold, living in that victim mentality. In that moment, I would have seen myself as a victim there. And, when I'm a victim, I don't have to take responsibility for my actions. And there's that chaos piece of things, right? Where like, I don't like chaos. However, I'm familiar in chaos because I don't have to take responsibility for my actions. And that was the lifestyle that I grew up in, was chaos within the family. And so that's very familiar to me. I know how to act. So, it was a really, really cool kind of thing. And we came out, on the other side of that where her and I are good. And, it's just really cool to be able to see these things and move through them and not get too hung up on them, and know that at like the end of the day, like, hey, I love this person and I'm committed to this person. And, somebody else, some sponsor, told me too, he's like, Alex, like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. This situation it's going to be all right, man. Like, yeah, sure. You may have some fears, but like, you guys are going to be okay. And to be able to hear that from somebody else, like, really kind of puts things in right sized, right? Because when we left, when we eventually, kind of went our separate ways, the next evening, it was kind of almost like, I don't know where we're at. We didn't end on a great note. I don't even know what to think. And there was part of me that wanted to just kind of roll over and call and profusely apologize. However, I didn't feel like that I was really wrong in any type of way. And, again, maybe it just wasn't the hill that I needed to die on. Again, I was trying to make it fair. And that wasn't right of me to do. And okay, I see it. I've learned from it. Now let's try to move on, right? Try to move forward. Because that's one of the cool things about all of this, is that like, okay, I get to move forward, right? I didn't do anything so destructive, right? On the back end of that, I didn't go and act out, right? I didn't do any of that. I didn't get lost in that to where like there's nothing. I didn't do anything that I can't come back from, or that would cause like major damage or betrayal or loss of trust within the relationship. And like, okay, like, that's progress, right? Progress. I'm able to see that. I'm able to feel that. And like, that is a really good feeling. So just kind of like the little snippet of kind of like what's going on in the relationship right now. Again, we're good. Things are good. Her and I are good. And, it's kind of, business as usual. And again, we're learning. Her and I are both learning throughout this whole process. You know what? No matter where I'm at in life, I can always learn, right? I'm always teachable. I'm always seeking, right? I want to know how to handle these situations differently and move forward and grow from these things. And I truly believe that, like, in this relationship, I am growing. In this relationship, the two of us are fostering, like, really, like, spaces for each other to grow. And, like, to me, that's, like, really beautiful. And I'm really grateful for the connection that I have with her and that I found her. So, moving on from kind of like the dating stuff, right? Like, I had this goal of graduating the CPRS course that I was taking at the local university. And, it really wasn't so much of like a pass or fail type of thing. However, you got to complete the program, and completing the program and then not knowing, like, okay, like, it's going to be a few months until I test. And man, I can't, I was so ready to get out of what I was doing working in a warehouse. I was so ready to get out of that job. And, for the treatment center to say, hey, yeah, we know you don't have your certification yet, but you can come on full time, and then finally, like, getting into that and then, like, passing that certification, like, and having that piece of paper hung up on the wall that says, hey man, you passed this, right? You're certified. The state, the country recognizes you as a certified, peer support specialist. Not that like truly really means anything, because it doesn't. I mean, again, I don't want to I don't want to discredit it at all, because I did put in the work and it was a lot of work. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not. It's not like a doctorate or anything like that. So, that felt really good. And then to be able to, like, leave my old job, like, sooner than I thought I was going to, right? Like, I got done with my internship in June and literally got to start full time at the treatment center in July. And, that has just been a whole new world for me, really, right? Hey guys, I just want to take a minute to share something deeply personal and transformative in my journey of recovery. I've been where you might be right now, struggling with the weight of addiction and feeling lost. But there's a place that offered me a new beginning, a place I truly believe in. It's called Begin Again Institute. At Begin Again, they understand the deep-rooted trauma behind addiction. Their 14-day intensive program for men tackles the neurobiological aspects of addiction head-on. It's not just about breaking a habit. It's about understanding and healing the underlying trauma that formed it in the first place. And for those who have been impacted by betrayal, Begin Again extends care to partners of addicts too. Their partner support program is offered at no additional cost to the family and runs alongside the men's intensive. This program helps participants gain an understanding of the trauma they've experienced and sets them on their own path to healing. If you or someone you love are grappling with sexual addiction, pornography addiction, or intimacy issues, Begin Again Institute can be that pivotal step towards recovery and a new lease on life. Remember, you can't go back and change the past, but it's never too late to begin again. To learn more about their life-changing program, visit beginagaininstitute.com or call 720-776-9076 to reserve your spot in the next 2-week intensive. I promise, it'll be the best call that you ever make for yourself. Stay strong, keep fighting, and keep tuning in to No Lions Here for more conversations about recovery, resilience, and hope. Going from never working in this industry to now I'm working full-time. I just accepted a full-time job in the industry, right? Like, all right, let's go. I'm ready to go. And it's been such a rewarding and fulfilling career and job. And, I go into work early. All right. I stay later than I'm supposed to, right? I go in on my off days sometimes. Well, okay, I did that once or twice. I don't want to say all the time because I don't do it all the time. But being able to like something enough to where, like, my weeks fly by. I think in total I've taken like 3 or 4 days off. Whereas in my other job, it was like every 2 weeks I was taking a day off because I just hated it. And then, like, I don't know, to be a part of something that's really special and to realize the gift that I've been giving, and that every day I go into the treatment center, like, I'm honing that gift, and I'm honing that craft and that skill, and that, like, wow, I can do something that not a lot of people can do. and that is convey my experience in a way that is very relatable, just like I do here on the podcast. Be able to take my experience and go in and present it in an entertaining way, and an entertaining, a lighthearted way that makes sense and really breaks things down. Like, just being able to continue to like craft that. And like, it's just been so cool to see that, like, hey, I can do this. Like, this is something that I can do, right? Before, like, even like whenever I started the podcast, right? And people were like, man, you're really good at this. And it's like, well, anybody can do this. Anybody can sit down in front of a mic and just talk. Yeah, sure. Maybe that's true. But can they do it in a way that I do it? Can they convey a message that I'm trying to convey here? And, not everybody can get up in front of a room of 45 and, talk for 2 hours. Talk for 2 hours and get a message across. And, like the podcast, like I don't really prepare. Like I prepared, right? I've been doing my curriculum for over a year now. So I'm good in it. But a lot of times it's like, man, if I want to switch it up, I have the ability to switch it up and say, okay, I don't want to talk about that today. I want to talk about this. And I'll pull from my experience. What's really cool is to be able to use my own struggle still, because I still struggle, and be able to talk about the problems that I have. So recently, this was really cool. Like, so, I was at work. It was a Wednesday, and I had to run an afternoon group, and I had an old acting out partner text me, and this was somebody that had texted me before, and I had blocked their number. I didn't respond, and I blocked their number. And so they texted me from a new number, and they were like, hey, you blocked me, and I'm in town until Saturday. And I was at work, and in the moment, I was like, oh my, like a reaction, right? An emotional reaction within me, right? There was some excitement there. There was some intrigue there. This is somebody that, had kind of been off and on in my life for some years. And, it was, again, like intriguing, the whole idea behind like sex addiction. And like when somebody enters your world like that, being a sex addict, like it can be very intriguing, right? It's one thing if I enter somebody else's world, right? That's me knocking on their door and entering their world. But, this person reached out to me. Like, they entered my world. I didn't solicit this. They just reached out on their own free will. They chose me. And for a sex addict, that's like, it can be intoxicating. So, and in my head, I'm thinking, all right, well, it's Wednesday. Let's see, the girlfriend's not coming up until Friday. Mom's going out of town, so I'll have the house to myself. And like, this was a thought process that I went through. Of, well, man, maybe you can get away with this. And I'm thinking, that's a terrible idea. That's a terrible idea. But the thoughts were still there, right? And something I've really been trying to do for myself is like not sentence myself for having these thoughts, right? Because thoughts are going to pop up. I am not my thoughts. I don't need to sentence myself because I'm not acting on these thoughts. I'm not putting any action behind these thoughts. If I'm put action behind the thoughts, okay, that's one thing. That's one thing, and that needs to be addressed. However, even in the past with these thoughts, I've been like, man, I'm a bad person, right? Like, I shouldn't, oh my God, I like, and there's like there's just like self-loathing that comes into play there around just having the thoughts. Again, no action behind them whatsoever, just having those thoughts. And I'm a human being. Those thoughts are going to come. These thoughts are going to come. They're going to continue to come. And so I remember I went in a group, and we were doing the feeling wheel because I always do the feeling wheel. I love the freaking feeling wheel. If you're struggling with being able to share and express your emotions, go get a feeling wheel. Go get one. It's still the most useful tool that I use. And I still use it to this day. That was one of the very first tools that I got into in treatment at Begin Again Institute. And I still have the original copy that they gave me. Go use the feeling wheel. So I had them going around the feeling wheel, and whenever we do the feeling wheel check-in, I check in with them, right? I give them my feelings, and I shared some uncomfortable feelings, and all of the clients were like, well, what's going on? What's going on? Tell us. And I'm like, you know what? No, I'm not going to. This is about you guys. I'm going to leave me out of it. So we went about for the first hour a group, and then we give them a break 50 minutes in, and then we come back, and I was still really struggling with the thoughts and the urges and, kind of entertaining these fantasies. So I went into the room and I said, all right. I said, hey, you guys want to hear what's going on with me? And they're like, yeah, tell us. And I was like, well, my drug literally just texted me. My drug texted me, told me they were in town till Saturday. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. I tried to plan it out. I thought, okay, you know what? Girlfriend's not coming up till Friday, Thursday. Okay, let's go. And how I didn't want to do that. And that, like, I was able to turn it into like a really good lesson around, like, hey, these things are going to pop up, right? Urges are going to pop up. We're going to get put in situations, right? Again, I didn't enter this person's world. This person entered my world, right? Somebody's going to enter your world, right? Whether it be alcohol, whether it be hard drugs, whether it be sex, whatever it is, like, these things are going to enter our world. And it's up to me to, like, be like, no, I'm not doing that. And that, like, today I have a choice, right? I have a choice. I don't have to partake in these things. I don't have to entertain these things, or put action behind these thoughts. It was really a cool moment, and talk about, like, accountability too, right? Like, accountability. There was accountability there in sharing this with 40 people in this room, and, like, getting vulnerable with them around, like, hey guys, like, I'm struggling with this right now. Right? Like, I still get urges. I still can fantasize that lifestyle. I can't. And so it was like really cool to be able to share with them. And there's been other instances too where, like, I've gotten to, like, share the struggles that I have with these people. Like, hey, just because I'm up here, just because I've been in recovery and I've got some clean time, like, it does not mean that I am fully out of the woods yet. However, in the woods, I've got this little knapsack. And this knapsack has a map in it. It's got a compass in it. It's got some tools. It's got a fire starter, right? Like, I got some tools. I'm no longer just naked, and I got tools with me. And you know what? Like, these urges are going to pop up, and we don't have to follow them. We don't have to act on them. And so it was really cool. And then, like, what was cool was, like, that was, like, my last day of the work week. And then when I went back on a Sunday, a bunch of clients were like, hey, how'd the weekend go? How'd you do? And, I got to be able to say, yeah, I got to stay sober. And then on top of that, not only that, I told them, hey, I'm going to go share this with my partner. I'm going to go share this information with my partner. And, in the discussion, people were like, well, can't you tell them, text them back and tell them that, you're in a relationship? And I was like, I don't even want to do that. I don't want to engage in any kind of conversation, because what that does in my mind is it leaves the door open, right? So if I texted this person back and said, hey, I'm in a relationship right now, sorry, can't, right? That still kind of leaves the door open, because maybe they'll be like, all right, well, I'll be back in 6 months, and maybe he won't be in a relationship in 6 months, so I'll hit him up again. And, like, I don't want that. I don't need that. But also too, like, I don't need to disclose anything to this person that, hey, I'm in a relationship, leave me alone. Like, no response is a response. And it's been done to me, and I don't like it. However, like, I didn't feel the need to engage, right? Because any little engagement that I give to this will only keep the thoughts going, keep the urges going. So I just didn't even feel the need to engage at all, and simply just deleted and blocked the number. And so, like, felt really good about that. I found that there was definitely a lot of fear in sharing this with the partner. And it's kind of fun, a funny story. I told her, and I think it was over FaceTime. I told her, and she kind of laughed. She laughed, and I was really surprised. She laughed and she said, geez, Alex, how many are there? And I was like, well, no, this is somebody that's done this before. And she was like, well, how did they get your number? And I said, it was a new number. How did the text go through? It was a new number. It was a number that I didn't have for them, that I never had for them. And then she even asked the question too of, well, why can't you tell them, like, you have a partner? And I said, I don't even want to engage. I don't even want to engage with them out of respect for you. Like, I don't even want to engage. them. And so that part of the job, like, hey guys, like, to show them, like, hey guys, like, I'm in the trenches with you. I'm in the trenches. I'm shoulder to shoulder with you guys, right? I'm gonna extend my hand and I'm gonna help you up because a lot of y'all are having trouble walking right now, and let me lift you up. I've been where you've been, and so that just created it's almost like it creates a trust with the clients, right? And I have no problem being vulnerable with them because, like, at the end of the day, like, I'm more okay with myself than I ever have been in my entire life. And talking about, like, full circle stuff, like, my idea of freedom is to be able to share these with a group of people and not really care what they think, right? I tell the clients all the time, guys, you may disagree with what I'm talking about up here, and that is fine. Doesn't bother me, because at the end of the day, I know my program, and there's a reason why I'm up here and you're there. And that's not being ignorant. That's not being an asshole. That's not being a dick. It's just, it's kind of factual. Like, hey, I put the time in. I've worked a program. And so that was, that's still going really well. The treatment center is getting full. It's wild to see, the treatment center getting full after the holidays and at the beginning of the year, right? It's almost like, all right, holiday parties have passed. People have made an ass of themselves at family gatherings, at work parties. It's people have gone overboard during the holidays, and now it's time for them to get some help. And so since the beginning of the year, we've been full, and that's a whole new kind of dynamic for us as a young treatment center. We've only been open for it'll be 2 years this year. So, being in a place where, like, we're basically at capacity, we haven't ever been at capacity before. And now that we're right there, it's like, okay, this is new for all of us. We're all trying to navigate this. And, it's different. It's different when you got 25 clients versus 45 clients. Whole different dynamic. You're adding more people in. There's 45 different stories going on. There's 45 different reasons as why people have come in. There's 45 different sets of baggage that people are bringing to the table. And you see it, and you want everybody to do well, and you want everybody to take this seriously. But the statistics are not great when it comes to relapse and recovery, especially out of treatment centers. Like, the statistics just aren't great. And I think we do a really good job where I work. I think that we're very special. We've got a bunch of different perspectives and very special individuals that work there. 83% of 85% of the staff is in recovery themselves. And so I think that adds a different dynamic to things. And there's a lot of treatment centers out there where people do work in recovery that are in recovery themselves. It's just, I don't know, I'm a part of something special. And, I think that eventually I will kind of grow out of where I'm at now. And, I think that that's just kind of how life goes. And I don't think that I'm there yet. So yeah, so that's really cool. One of my goals for last year was to finish the steps, and I did not accomplish that goal, right? And I need to talk about the things that I didn't accomplish, right? It's great to see the things that I accomplished, but be able to reflect on the things that I didn't accomplish and not be overwhelmed with a sense of shame and guilt around those things. I think that that's really big. The things that I didn't accomplish last year, I don't necessarily feel that overwhelming sense of shame and guilt. Even working in the treatment center in recovery and being able to, say, hey, I haven't worked the steps, felt a little duplicitous to me at the beginning. Also, too, with the way that I teach and the way that I go about my job is, yeah, the importance of the 12 steps and the importance of meetings and, working a program, getting a sponsor, but I don't talk about the steps a whole lot. That's just not part of that's just not how I go about things. We've got another guy, Ricky. Ricky's great. I love Ricky. And, he's all about the steps, right? He's all about the steps. He's all about the literature. And, like, that, works for him. And He's able to bring that perspective to the clients, whereas I'm more of the feelings, the internal work, that goes into the trauma stuff. That's kind of more my lane. And then we've got Scott. I had Scott on the group, and he's in AA, been sober for almost 20 years now, and he's all about community. He's all about the program and community. So you got Scott, that's programmer community. You've got me, who's feelings and trauma, and let's really look inside at what's going on. And then you got Ricky, who's 12-step heavy literature. And then you've got Katie, my other coworker, who I haven't on the podcast. Well, maybe one day I'd like to have her on. She's more of like the creative type. She does like the creative stuff, the chair yoga, the meditation, the arts and crafts, which I'm not good at arts and crafts. None of the guys there, me, Ricky, or Scott, are good at arts and crafts. And we know that. So, one of my goals, to work the steps, and that didn't happen. I did not get through the steps last year. And you know what? That's okay. I actually literally just sat down with Jeff last night to start working on my step 4. And there were some things that I needed in that, and that was deadlines. I told Jeff, and Jeff's got a lot going on, and so one of the things that I had to ask was, hey man, what's your capacity right now? Because I need some. He's in a new relationship. He's got his own life going on, and like, hey man, like, what's your capacity to walk me through the steps, to get back into the step work? And if his answer was, man, I really don't know. I don't know if I have the capacity right now. Of, okay, hey man, I still want you to be my sponsor. Can I have somebody else kind of walk me through the steps? I was fully prepared to ask that. But my first question was, hey, man, what's your capacity? This is what I want to do, right? Going back to that sponsor-sponsee relationship, what do I need from my sponsor, and can I ask for what I need? I think that's a big part of the relationship, sponsee and sponsor. And so going to him and saying, hey, man, what's your capacity? And he was like, yeah, I can do that. Absolutely, man. Let's get back into it. That's what you want to do. And then the second thing I followed up with was, hey, man, I need deadlines. Give me deadlines. Because if we don't do deadlines, because in the past when we worked the steps, I didn't put deadlines on myself. He didn't put deadlines on me. And really realizing that, like, hey, I need deadlines. And, I'm kind of at this place where, like, there's things in my life that I need to make time for, and that is going to be step work, and that is also going to be podcasts. I've really kind of been struggling with dedicating and setting aside time for the podcast, and I think I've actually got a plan moving forward of what I'm going to do, and that requires me that requires some sacrifice on my end. And for me, that sacrifice looks like, so right now I'm playing hockey. Hockey's a big part of my life, big part of my story, and I love playing. It's a really healthy thing for me. And so right now I'm playing in 3 different men's leagues that I play 3 nights out of the week. Majority of the time it's 2 nights out of the week, and then the Saturday league is once or twice a month. And so looking at my week going, okay, I play Tuesday night and Wednesday night. When I really don't like my Tuesday night team a whole bunch. So you know what? I'm going to stop playing on Tuesday. So that frees up a Tuesday night for me. So Tuesday night can now be focused on podcasting and step work. And so just, making some sacrifices, because to me, like, not playing hockey one of those nights out of the week is a sacrifice, maybe, because I love doing that. And that's okay, though. I'm okay with that, because, again, that's going to free me up to do some of the other work that I feel like I don't have time for right now. So, going to my sponsor and asking about the capacity, and then also hey, give me deadlines. So we got together last night and we talked about step 4. He talked about what he wants, how he wants me to kind of craft it and go about it. And so I'm like, okay. And like step 4 is a lot of times where people kind of fall off, right? To me, steps 1, 2, and 3 are kind of like the decision steps. Right? Are you powerless? Do you believe a higher power can restore you to sanity? Are you willing to turn your will and your life over to the power to the God of your understanding? And that really, like, those 3 steps are the decision steps, right? And then step 4 is when you really get into like the nuts and bolts, putting pen to paper and really going inside and looking. And so like a lot of people fall off on step 4 because that's kind of when like the heavy work comes into play. So I I'm actually really excited to do my 4th step. I think that obviously with being in the program for 4 years and doing the internal work and really I'm taking a look at so much inside of me, and there's still more that to be uncovered, right? Like this is a process, this is a journey, and realizing that like I'm not gonna have I haven't hit everything. Like I've got into it. So I'm actually like, a lot of people can be scared and intimidated by step 4. However, like I'm really excited to look at more. I'm really excited to get into it and to deep down. The way that I'm looking at this is like connecting with myself. And for most of my life, I've not truly been connected to myself. And so I'm viewing this as an opportunity to really like connect with myself here. And so like I'm excited. I'm excited. My expectation is not to have this kind of like this aha light bulb goes off, big, huge transformation, because again, there's a lot of stuff on my step 4 that I'm aware of. There's a lot that's going to be on there that I'm aware of, and there may be some on things on there that I'm not aware of. And again, that's why I'm excited to get into it. So, and I told my sponsor, like, hey man, 2 weeks, and then let's revisit this. And he's like, yeah, okay. He's like, because he said, when I left his house last night, he's like, how about like the end of March? And I was like, how about 2 weeks? How about 2 weeks, right? And what I love about the steps is like, I've shared this before. I've had a sponsor early on kind of tell me like, hey man, like if you look at your day, there's a lot of the steps are involved in your day. Maybe they're not in that order of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But if you look at your day, you will find that there are a lot of steps involved. And so that really gave me some comfort when it came to like the steps and not putting all this pressure on myself to do the steps. Clearly, I wasn't ready to do the steps until this point in time. Now, do I suggest waiting 4 years? Probably not. If you can get to them sooner, get to them sooner. But everybody's different. The journeys all look different. There's nothing wrong with that. So so this is actually doing the steps. This is definitely like kind of like checking the boxes, right? Like there's things that we do that where we kind of just like check the box. And not that I'm going to half-ass these at all, but part of this is kind of just like checking that box to be like, okay, yes, I have worked the steps. I do have an understanding of the steps, and that understanding is through working them. And so I'm really excited to work the steps and to get into step 4. I'm actually like, again, like really excited to do that. And I think it's going to be really interesting and cool to again connect with myself. So the new goal with the steps is to finish the steps this year. And I have faith that I can continue to put those in and again make time for myself to do those, because again, one of my big things in my head is I don't have time to do this, when in reality, like I do have the time to do this. I put them off because I'm afraid. There is definitely fear involved, and hey, step 4, I'm looking at those fears, right? And I'm aware that those fears are there. And maybe I don't give those fears enough credit. Maybe I don't acknowledge those fears enough. There are a lot of fears inside of me, though. That's for sure. So I'm really excited to dive into step 4. And obviously, I want to keep the podcast going. That's another goal for this year. And, something else that I'm really been kind of thinking about is like going back to school to become a therapist. Not sure where I'm at with that. That's really like, we're in the really early stages. I had one of our outpatient clinical director who maybe I want to have on the show one day. He's an amazing dude. He really reminds me of Matt Wanger from BAI. Shout out to Matt. He really reminds me, his whole demeanor. He's very smart, very good at what he does. He's also on a program himself. But he asked me recently. He's like, "Hey man, are you gonna like because I've been getting a good chance to work with him with some clients actually, in the sense of like, just talk, different clients. He'll talk to the clients, I talk to the clients, and then we'll kind of get together and talk, Again, if you go to a treatment center, just know that everybody there knows what's going on with you. The staff talk. Spoiler alert, the staff talk. So if you share one thing with the staff, most likely it's either going to be put in your profile to where all the other staff know, and we all talk, right? Because we all keep each other up to date, right? So he asked me recently, he said, "Hey man, you planning on like furthering your education at all?" And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to. That's something I'm not. And I said, you're not the first person to tell me this though. And he's like, "Oh man, I think you've got some really good insights and instincts on a lot of this stuff. And I think that with whatever you want to do, having that certificate, having those letters behind your name will allow you to do things that you can't do right now." And that made a lot of sense. So, and now the one thing that like I immediately jumped to, right? Fears involved in this is, and the other thing that one of the things I jumped to is, well, man, all right, what's that process look like? Well, it's like an 8-year process, right? Because I have no schooling. So I'd have to go back, get my bachelor's degree and then my master's degree, and then spend another 2 years training before I could even get the license. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that is such a long time. Oh my gosh. And then it was him and then somebody else that I was talking to about this said, "Hey man, those 8 years are going to pass no matter what, whether you do this or not. The time's going to pass." And it's like, man, dang it, I can't really argue with that. So I'm talking about it. I'm praying about it. Not too sure what I want to do. So we'll see where that goes. But that's definitely something I'm thinking about. Something that's kind of rolling around a little bit. So yeah. So last year, 2024 was a big year. And so I'm really excited for 2025 and to see what this brings me and where this journey takes me. And obviously, I'm going to be keeping you guys have been along with me for the ride for the last 3.5 years. And yeah, I'm really excited to see where 2024 goes, or sorry, 2025 goes. Jeez. And yeah, I'll keep you guys up to date. But I'm so grateful that I get to sit down and I get to have these conversations and put it out there and that people connect. I've been having some people reach out to me around the podcast, and I'm so grateful that I have this and that God has given me this gift and that I get to pass this along, right? Because what's another thing we say in the program is if you want to keep what you got to give it away. And so this is a form of service for me. And I'm just so grateful that I'm in this position to do this, right? No matter what my life looks like right now, because I still got problems, right? I still got financial insecurities and fear and anxiety. And, all those things are true. What also true is that I know that no matter what, like I'm going to be okay. And that there's actions that I can take around these things. And so, okay, you know what, like the program worked for me today, so I think I'm going to get up and I think I'm going to try it again tomorrow. So on that note, guys, thank you so much for joining me on this journey. Definitely go like and subscribe to the YouTube, go subscribe to Spotify. Again, No Lions Here. If you want, if there's any topics that you'd like to hear me discuss, or if you'd like to connect, please feel free to email me, nolionshere@gmail.com. Again, that's nolionshere@gmail.com.